I spent about 2 days training my executive assistant on email management and the different systems we use and all of this kind of stuff. You know how long I spend a day on my email? About 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm saving 35 to 45 minutes a day times 365 days a year. Maybe I don't check it every day. So let's drop it down to 300. That takes 2 whole months of not checking it out. But still, that's 300 hours that I've now reduced down to just minutes. What can I do with that 300 hours of life, extra life?
Hey, it's Rocky. Welcome to Richer Soul. Today's guest is my good friend, Jaime J., who runs Bottleneck, a company that provides virtual assistants. We discuss culture and systems to improve your life and your business. Imagine it's 12 months from now, and you've achieved your major life goals. How does it feel to be in the best shape of your life? To wake up energized, excited about the day? To have great relationships and friends who support you and propel you forward? How does it feel to have an excess of money, to be able to make the choices you want? To be fearless and open to trying new adventures? Imagine being connected to the universe and it providing everything you desire. It's possible over time, and your past does not dictate your future. The only thing holding you back from this vision is you. It's time to take control of our thoughts and use them to our advantage. Welcome to Richer Soul, where we achieve our dreams and bring balance to health, wealth, relationships, time, and spirituality. If you have not had a chance to listen to episodes 1 through 9, I encourage you to go back and listen to the framework behind Richer Soul and how to create the life of your dreams. You can also find all the show notes for this episode at richersoul.com. While you're there, you can sign up for a monthly email where I share the best articles I read this month, let you know about upcoming episodes, and share a little wisdom. You can also listen to coaching calls under the Coaching Calls tab. I also share the most interesting articles I read every week on Facebook at facebook.com/Richer Soul. And there's also a Facebook group where you can ask questions and interact with other listeners. Today's quote comes from Teal Swan. Trying to create what you want while being in resistance to what is like trying to paddle a canoe forward when your fishing line is stuck on a branch at the bottom of the lake. Embracing uncertainty and adopting the subsequent attitude of curious surrender in this circumstance enables us to metaphorically unhook ourselves from the bottom of the lake and move forward. In one of my calls this week, the question was, what's your relationship with uncertainty? Wow, that's a tough one. I struggle with this. I'm naturally wired to reduce risk or uncertainty. So when it's there, it drives me crazy. I'm working on this currently, and I'm learning to accept that most things probably don't matter as much as I think they do, that everything will work out, and I just need to enjoy the journey. So what's your relationship with uncertainty in life? How do you cope? How does it show up? We can do everything right, and the results can be disastrous because of luck or happenstance or a million other things. And so we've got to have that right mindset to just do the work and accept whatever the outcome is. We'll be talking about this in future episodes. So how did you do with last week's action step? Update and automate your savings. In business or personally, this works. It's my secret to financial success. That one move at 22 set me up for massive financial success. When I learned that businesses weren't looking at their numbers, and I found a way to automate that process for them, it became my purpose, is to help business owners automate their systems to ensure financial success. We'll talk about that with our guest today and how it worked with him. Jaime J is my friend and mastermind partner. At the core, he's a connector of personalities and brands. He constantly challenges himself to be a better human being. He's also an amateur hockey player and a starter geek who truly enjoys helping his clients rediscover themselves, their companies, and how to realize their why. He's worked with clients all over the world. He's responsible for growing and leading multiple management, sales, and operating teams. He co-founded and operated a publishing company where he helped create, publish, and distribute a regional sales real estate publication. He's the recipient of the Army Achievement Medal for meritorious service. He hosted a top 100 business podcast, which I was a guest on. Jaime J is the founder and managing director of Bottleneck Virtual Assistants. Together with an amazing team, they offer professional growth opportunities for ambitious leaders by creating an efficient and systematic approach to identify, hire, and cultivate team members who focus on specific roles and responsibilities. Let's meet our guest. Welcome to Richer Soul, Jaime J. It's great to have you join us today.
Thank you so much, Rocky. This is awesome. I'm super pumped.
And I'm excited to learn from you today. So, we always start at the beginning. What was it like when you were growing up, and how much did your family and school teach you about money?
Oh, man, it was awesome growing up. I grew up in the wonderful state of Alaska. Started out in Juneau, moved just across the channel to Douglas, where I went to grade school there. I think it was Jack and Jill Primary School was the school I first went to. And then we moved to North Pole, Alaska. Went to second grade there, and then into Fairbanks till I was about, I think, 12 or 13, and just had an awesome time, as you can imagine. During the summer, my parents would say, hey, make sure you're home by dinner. And days were a little bit longer in the summer there. So we just took off running around, playing all day, and then we'd run in at night to about 7, 8 o'clock and get some dinner.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It was awesome. And then the second part of that, how much did my school teach me about money?
And your parents? School,
none. Parents, a little bit. But I have to say, I was a little spoiled growing up. I'm very, very thankful for my upbringing. Didn't get too much lessons. Too many lessons, I should say, in finance. So it took me a while to kind of figure out what that was all about. About, I don't know, 40 years or so.
It took you 40 years to figure it all out?
Well, I think it's probably ongoing, maybe 49 years.
So you're still working on it?
Still working on it, but I've learned a ton.
So what are some of the main things that you've learned along that journey?
While this is vague, is responsibility. Even at the age of 38, I lost a business because the economy kind of collapsed around real estate, and I was in a real estate specific business and lost everything. I lost 72 clients in the span of 3 months and found myself living back at home. And as you can imagine, that was not easy to do. And it was 100% my fault. I was not fiscally responsible. I didn't plan for the future. I was just living paycheck to paycheck and thinking everything was going to stay the same and stay great. And I didn't take the time to plan.
And unfortunately, I think that happens a lot. And in today's time frame, I think it almost feels like 2007 again. So maybe not as bad, but there's definitely parts of the economy that's the constant conversation I'm hearing kind of under the currents is prepare yourself because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. And it's not to say that tomorrow's bad, but everyone's talking about prepare, it's coming. I
agree. I think we need to really buckle down, work our hindquarters off, have fun doing it, but be smart about it. We'll talk a little bit about Profit First here and the impact that's had for myself and our company. But yeah, I think get a game plan and stick to it. And one of the real challenging things for me is I really love taking advantage of traveling and doing all the stuff I can while I'm young, but I have to be careful about it. I got to make sure I'm financially responsible in doing so. And that's an ongoing battle that I have with myself.
So there are ways to travel for less. And there's a lot of games that can be played with regards to points. And, you know, if you have the flexibility of travel, I think most of Europe is on sale during our winter. And so if you're okay going at that time, you get to go. Actually, most of the world is on sale during our winter. So there's plenty of places to go, except, of course, the Caribbean, which is at a premium.
Yeah, exactly. Greece is a great place to go.
It is. I have not been to Greece. We were in Italy, and we've been through England and some other places. So I've just been telling my wife, look, you want to go everywhere. Can we narrow the list down, pick a couple places, and we'll make it happen over the next few years. So I'm definitely looking into that. Just the other day, I was looking at, they have, when they reposition cruise ships, you get some special deals and you get to go to kind of two areas. So I was just looking at prices on that. I was like, wow, that's pretty inexpensive for a 16-day cruise. And you get to go to a lot of different places. You just have to fly into one and fly out of somewhere else. So you fly over to Europe, go all over Europe, maybe you end up in Florida or you end up, you know, somewhere in the Middle East, who knows, and then you fly home from there. So definitely some things I'm looking into.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, and we found another way to do it is kind of neat too. A lot of people here where we're at, I don't know if I should say a lot of people, but my perception is a lot of people frown on public transportation. I absolutely love it, and so does Sarah. And you can go through Europe at a quarter of the price it would cost to fly around on trains and stuff like that. And that's part of the beauty, is getting to see the landscape and the different stops. And if you want to hop off, hop off.
And that's one of the things. Europe is so small compared to the United States that taking the train makes sense. I mean, literally, we left London. I think we went through Paris in an hour and we were in Belgium within 2. So it's not like it's this super long train ride. And their trains, even when we went all over Italy, we took the trains. Their trains run well. They're clean. They have great service. It's not probably what we're used to in America. So It's just a very different atmosphere. And things are so much closer. It's kind of like going, for me, New York to Philadelphia or New York to Boston. It's an easy trip.
We lived in Germany. I lived in Germany, oh man, quite a whiles back, but we rented a van and we wanted to go skiing in the Swiss Alps. We said, why not? It wasn't that far away. So we rented a van. We actually drove the van onto a train, and then the train brought us up to Laukernalp, this mountain where we skied for the day, and then hopped back on the train in the truck or in the van and back to Mannheim all in one day.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's much smaller there, so it's much easier to do that.
Yep, for sure.
So one of the things you mentioned was do it while having fun. And one of the things that I've heard you say in respect to companies, but culture beats strategy. Mm. And I think what happens most often, right, when we talk about creating a business, we talk about a business plan and a business strategy. But I don't hear people say, I want to create a business culture. Why do you say culture beats strategy?
There was a book written by Peter Drucker called Culture Eats Strategy for Breakfast. And I absolutely fell in love with that. I'm fascinated by seeing how certain companies, people want to work for these companies. They do everything they have, and they have a waiting list of applications. And it's just amazing if you can get a job at these places, the Googles or the different places that have really good cultures. And in my opinion, culture is not all bean bags and beer, right? It's not about going, oh, they offer free beer here, and you can sit in the bean bags and you can sleep during work and all that stuff, which is some of the things that Google offers. But it's finding out a way that you can surround yourselves with people that have a similar belief system. They share in a single vision, and you offer an atmosphere free of fear. free of fear of speaking up, free of fear of offering ideas, and knowing that if you offer an idea, it may get shot down, it may not be accepted, but you're not going to be looked down upon or frowned upon, or there's not going to be people smirking in the back of the room saying, "Oh my gosh, what an idiot." If you can create an environment like that to where people want to work, maybe even create their own job descriptions, maybe even set their own salaries. This offers an atmosphere of empowerment. And that, if you can get that, a group of people coming together, sharing the same vision, then strategy, while very important, is so much easier to contend with.
And so that brings up a couple questions. Number one, if I can name my own salary, how do you know people aren't going to name an unreasonable salary?
I haven't done this, but I've heard of other people that have, and I'm sure there's parameters, and there's maybe a certain roof or level that you do. But I think when you work with people that share the same vision, they're shooting for the same goals, and they're coming into this company. It's much like in my company. Everyone in my company has the room to make their own decisions, but they do it in this order, in 3 steps. The decision they make, is it a good decision for the company first? Company has to be healthy. Second, is it a good decision for the staff? The staff has to be happy. And third, is it a good decision for our client? Because if the company's not healthy, we can't take care of the staff financially or otherwise, so the staff will not be happy. And if the staff's not happy, they're going to give poor customer service to our clients, where in turn our clients will go find somewhere else where they're happier. So I think it's somebody coming in to an organization, to an atmosphere, I'll say again, that is, a fun place to be. Now there's goals, there are objectives, but if everybody can buy into that and they understand that the company needs to be profitable in order to continue on, then people, I think, will look at their salary through a different lens.
And I guess one of the best questions to ask people is, if that's a salary you want, how are you going to provide 2x that value to the company to be able to pay that salary?
That's a great, by doing what you're doing, what are you contributing to ROI? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think if the vision, mission, and core values are clearly stated and clearly understood, and whoever comes on board agrees with that, honestly agrees with that, and really wants that to happen, then you're looking at a completely different set of values moving forward collectively instead of individually.
Did you get that vision, mission, core values from Scott Beebe?
Of course I did.
I was like, I had Scott on not long ago, and I'm like, that sounds so familiar.
Oh my gosh. Scott he helped me get my company. He started the whole thing on to where it's at today, because without the delegation roadmap, the 6-step hiring formula that I kind of took, I started where he left off, and I kind of made it more personalized for what we were doing. And that drives us. That totally drives us. As a matter of fact, everybody that comes on board, they review our vision, mission, and our core values before, and that's separate before their second interview. And we come back and say, hey, do you agree with the vision, mission, values, and why? And that's the catalyst for the second interview.
Very nice. So you also mentioned that people get fearful because of snarky comments. Are there other reasons for fear, or how do we end up in this kind of environment where everyone is, I guess, somewhat battling each other?
Ego is the enemy, as the title of the book. I think we all have egos. There's just something about us as people. It's ingrown to our society, but I think it's manageable. And I think you can lead with kindness, and you can be involved in an organization with a kind heart. Now, that doesn't mean being happy all the time. Sure, there's going to be disagreements or different viewpoints and things like that could create a sense of fear. And sometimes, I don't want to say fear is always bad. Sometimes maybe scary. Like something that you're going to do if a decision is made based on a recommendation that you've produced, that could be scary. What if it fails? but you have to feel empowered to be able to offer up these creative ideas. And a good, successful, however you define success, leader is going to know that when they hire somebody, they can't know everything. Everybody on that team knows something better, or are more familiar with, more educated than somebody else on that team. Everybody has different life experiences. So be able to leverage these ideas. And hey, if it's a failure, it's a team that failed, right? It's not a certain individual. Maybe we find out that in essence, this initial idea was a bad idea. But no, in my opinion, there really isn't a bad idea. I mean, you can understand some of them you've experienced before, and you can shoot them down before you ever take handle of them. But I think in my heart of hearts, if a decision is made and it's a educated decision to move forward with something, you can never tell what the future holds. But if everybody on the team buys into it, and even if there's people on the team that maybe are not too much on board, but there's a consensus that is made, and as long as you convey that and everybody knows that, hey, we're going to move together as a team. Sure, we can have different points of view, but if the consensus is made to move in one direction, let's get everybody on board with that, and let's do it. Let's work hard to do it and achieve it together. I think that right there is, I think, I don't even know if it's fear. It might be, scary, but I want to alleviate fear as much as possible as far as being free to come up with ideas.
So how do you deal with the failure? Because inevitably in business, and by the very nature of business, 9 failures are okay, because there's a good chance that the 10th success is so big that it overshadows the 9 failures. But in the midst of 9 failures, it's difficult. So how do you deal with the failures to empower people to overcome and keep continuing?
I don't know that I really have an answer for that question. I mean, I can give you some examples, some hypotheticals, some experiences that I've had in my past and how I've dealt with them myself. But I really, truly believe that going in, if you make a decision collectively to move forward on a certain thing, to build this widget or to do this thing or to do this campaign, you're going in it with all the best intentions. However, I think it's important to discuss, okay, what if this doesn't work? What's going to happen? Where are we going to, we can't always tell what exactly is going to happen, but you can say, to mitigate these risks, what systems do we have to have in place in order to make a pivot? Sorry to use that word. I know it's overused, but to tweak it a little bit so that you can move on. And then going into these decisions, knowing that there's most likely going to be tweaks made along the way as you discover friction points, just go into it with that mindset, knowing that, hey, let's do this. We're going all in. Here's some of the things that might happen, and ask the team, what are some of the things what are the downsides? Of course, you'll have a couple people, I don't know necessarily like to call the word critics, but that's almost a good thing, right? Be challenged in your decision-making process and think of the downside of things. And as long as all of those come into play, you can still get hit with something from left field, of course, all the time. But just go in, and here's my biggest thing. Go in when you're 80% there, not 100%, because you don't want to overanalyze it. If you have a good idea and there's a consensus made that that's a good idea, move forward with it with the understanding that, hey, we have to be careful with this. If certain things happen, let's be prepared to move on this and as a team.
I'm currently reading the Bezos letters, which is about Amazon. And one of the things that they talk about in the book is a culture of promoting failure, meaning go out and try things, because if you're not trying things and you're not out at the cutting edge, then you're going to have trouble. And I remember when my kids were learning to ski, it was kind of that same concept that if you're not falling, you're not learning, right? You're not out at the edges. You're not trying things. And I think too often we look at failure as a negative. It doesn't need to be. It's just, hey, we tried an experiment and we learned something from it. It didn't bring us the expected results we wanted, but what are the lessons and how do we now retool and do something better the next time around?
I agree. And there's almost something to be said for learning how to fall right. I play hockey all the time. And although we don't have full contact anymore, when I was growing up, we were taught how to take a hit along the boards. There's a certain way that you take a hit to avoid as much injury as possible. Not all the time can you get hit and not get injured, but there's certain techniques and certain things that you can learn so that when you take a hit, you can absorb it in the best ways. You put your one arm up and one arm down, and it's a way of protecting your head. And there's just all these little nuances to the sport when you do something like that with physical activity. And you can take that right into the world of business. None of us are perfect. We're going to fail. And we're going to fail several times. It could be something huge. It could be a little small thing. It could be missing a deadline on something. But what can you do to circumvent or to respond to that that wall you hit or that hurdle you have to overcome? There's practice in there, I think. And I think if you can and learn from your mistakes, most importantly, write down what happened, read a lot of books, find out what other people did. Brian Scudamore, the owner of OTE Brands, a 1-800-GOT-JUNK franchise, he was up to 11 employees and decided to fire everybody because people were coming into work not smiling and they weren't happy to be there. And he didn't want to have that environment. So he literally let his staff go and went back to just him. And now here he is several years later, doing $250 million in his collective companies because he knew that he didn't want to go in a certain direction, and at the time made a really tough choice, lost some business over that decision, but was able to come back and be better than ever.
And that, again, brings us back to culture. And I've heard you talk about the power of kindness in the workplace, which I'm sure helps with failure, and building those relationships and the ability to share and promote each other and not fight against each other, which tends to be what happens in many environments, unfortunately. So what have you seen? I mean, people, I think, struggle with kindness in relationships at work because it's like, well, then he's going to get ahead of me. How do you balance that? And what have you found from your experiences?
I go back to my sports, my team sports, my hockey. Of course, what I do is very important to that particular game, but it's a collective effort to win a game. It's using your defensemen, using your wingers, using your centerman, using your goalie, listening to the coach. When you're done with your shift, talk with your line mates and find out, what happened, what we did good, what we didn't do right, so that next time when we go out, we can make shifts on the fly and course correct. I think that's the same as in business. I think it's really important to keep a strong, open line of communication. And the gratitude token. This is an incredible idea. And oh my gosh, I can't think of her name right now, but she's the one that shared it with me. And what happens is she'll give a gratitude token and it's worth a certain monetary value, or it has some kind of value to where that person can use it to go buy things or purchase things or do something with it. And what happens is you can get a gratitude token if you compliment somebody else on the team for doing a good job. It was because of this person that did that, I was able to do this, and we successfully got a new client strictly because of that. Okay, great. Here's a gratitude token for you. And it's little things like that I think help change the mindset and bring people together. Sure, there's reward for it, but pretty soon it becomes habitual. And if you compliment somebody, there was a commercial out there and someone dropped a bag of groceries and a guy stopped and helped him pick up the groceries, and he walked down the road and held the door open for the next person with a smile, and it was like a chain reaction. We call it here at Bottleneck the ripple effect, and that's the positive giving to other people, and that can extend far beyond just our company. It can extend into our local communities. It can extend after school programs. programs. We can give up our time to help someone learn a trade or learn music, whatever that may be. I just think if you can start somehow within your organization, or even starting in new projects within team environments, and seeing how you can kind of beta test a certain thing, see how that works for a team, and if it works good, then introduce it to the other teams in the organization.
And that's very true. And I do like the sports analogies. When I coach soccer, when we had a goal scored against us, everyone wants to blame the goalie because, he let the ball go in the goal. And I'm like, excuse me, there are 10 other people on this field. I don't understand why the ball even got to the goal. That means 10 of you failed before the goalie did. So before you go blame him, you better think about what you did and why the ball was even on our side of the field to begin with. And that really helps the goalie, but it also helps them realize that they are important and that you have to work together completely as a team.
Take ownership. Now, there is something like one of the worst pieces of advice I ever got was from my dad. And my dad told me, he's like, okay, Jaime, for every goal you score, I'm going to give you $5. That was the absolute worst piece of advice, because you know why? I could have somebody wide open on the off wing. So I would be coming down the left side. Somebody could be on the right side of the ice, wide open for a tap-in goal, but I would shoot it right into the goalie, no goal, because I was now incentivized for every goal I would make $5. And that was, I didn't realize it then. Obviously, I was just a kid. But today, looking back on that, that is the worst thing a parent or a coach or somebody in a youth sports organization can do.
And that's true. I guess you have to be very careful what you incentivize, because you will get whatever behavior you incentivize. And in this case, incentivize the behavior of not sharing. So had it been, hey, if you can tap it in, I'll give you 5. But if you can assist, I'll give you 10.
Even then, I think incentivizing that way is maybe bad, because then what would be happening? We'd be passing back and forth and never shoot.
Occasionally, you just take the shot.
Exactly. I don't think you should incentivize on the end result so much as what it takes to get there. Do we have a good practice? Take us out for pizza. The team. Take us out for pizza, because then that way we'll pick each other up. When we have a good game and we lose, that's when the real coaching happens. Not necessarily when we win, but when we lose. And come together, and maybe we tried really hard. If you have a bad game, okay, do laps. But if you had a good game and you still lose, look at all the positives in that. And the positive reinforcement is really, really important. And the same goes in business. If we have a really good quarter, let's take everyone out to lunch or dinner, or incentivize them or bonus the team, not an individual. Now, it's okay, sure. If one individual is excelling and you're giving them gratitude tokens, that's fine, because positivity is just as much as negativity is very addictive, and it spreads rapidly. And so if you can maintain more of a positive culture than you can of a negative culture, I think you're incentivizing individuals and teams on the progress is really important.
And we always had a saying, you're either going to win or learn. And so either you win the game or we learn how to do something better. And when I first learned how to coach, I lost a lot of games. But what I did was learn from every one of those games one way to be much better. And the reason I became a constant winning coach is because I learned so many ways to win. And when I stacked them all together, it was just a no-brainer. We would go crush everyone because we had so many ways of winning, not just one. Because I found most teams, especially when they were young, would have one way to win. And they would just take that one strategy. And I was like, no, we're going to have 10 strategies. We're going to have 10 different ways we can win, so that whatever one is applicable at the moment, we'll try and we'll keep working to go do that.
Yeah, it was interesting. The St. Louis Blues, and I'm sorry to go in these hockey analogies, but that's what I'm most familiar with. And they're so closely related to culture, because there's a good culture on a team, which is a business in the NHL, as there is in our own businesses. And it was pretty neat. The St. Louis Blues won the Stanley Cup. And the first game of the year, they raised the banner, Stanley Cup champions, and they brought the cup out, for one last time, and the different individual trophies that were won and things like that. And a person that had just been traded to the Blues, Falk, he came over from Carolina. He didn't go out on the ice while they came out for that last time raising the cup. And while he was a member of the team, he wasn't a member of the team that won the cup last year. And that was so respectful, and the team just embraced him for that. And they really, really appreciated the fact that he did that. And he was invited out on the ice, but he chose not to go. It wasn't his time, his place. It wasn't his win. And I thought that was incredible, because coming to a new team, especially a Stanley Cup winning hockey organization, can you imagine how much pressure that is and how difficult that would be to be the only person on the team not to have that ring, not to have that championship. And then the entire team goes to see the president, and he congratulates them. And every single person on the team went to see the president, no matter of their political views, because it was a team effort. And I just thought, wow, what an incredible organization. That culture is right.
And it takes work to build that culture. And it takes time, and it takes constant effort.
Mm-hmm.
Jaime and I were in a mastermind together. I learned so much and have such great inspiration and help from others in the group. But in order to get help, you also have to show up and give help. It's part of the culture. I'm starting my own mastermind group. It's going to be a paid group, and the purpose is to spend 75 minutes each week talking about harmony in your life. How does it all fit together, and how can we help each other through the struggles and choices we have to make, both personally and in business? If you're interested in learning more, email me at rocky@richyoursoul.com, or just use the scheduling link in the show notes to schedule a quick call to learn more about it. Today's show sponsor is Profit Comes First, and we'll let Jaime share his Profit First story later in the show. Now, back to our conversation. So one of the things that I've also heard you say, and I think it kind of fits in line, is that you have to learn to listen for understanding instead of listening to respond. What did you mean by that?
Some people react versus some people respond. Reaction is no breaths in between. If someone says something to you and it offends you, or you get a sense of the hair stands up on your back, it's so easy just to say, wait, what? That's not right. No, I didn't say, And then all of a sudden, it breaks down. Wherein, if you respond, my word for the year is listen. Listen intentfully and soulfully to engage notably. And the reason why I'm so focus was my word last year, so focused on listening, unless we're in an interview style format here, is the fact that I can understand and I take in, and before I respond, I take a breath, because that gives me a chance to think about what was just said to me, and it lets me respond, not react, in a way that's more thought-provoking, or maybe even I respond with a question, a clarifying question. And I try to tap into someone's emotions to I don't know what they're thinking all the time. And if they're angry or if they're raising their voice, to me, that means they're not being heard or they're not being understood. So I have to slow down. And I had a really hard time with that. You can ask my wife. I would respond back in a tone that to her was offensive, wherein for me, it wasn't. It was a clarifying question, but I didn't take the time to take a breath and respond intellectually.
I guess in part of that, it also requires a little bit of vulnerability.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So how has that worked for you?
I was a big advocate of fake it till you make it. Everything is going great. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Living at home with my parents at the age of 38, nobody knew that, but it forced me into getting into the online world and developing a business online because I was afraid. I couldn't go out. I couldn't talk to people or bring them to my office or invite people over to the house. I couldn't do it. It was so embarrassing for me. And so I thought, I'm going to fake it. I'm going to do good. I'm going to present myself like I'm successful. And while that worked a little bit, it was so fake and inauthentic. And I was afraid of who I'd become. I was ashamed of who I'd become is probably a better adjective to describe what I thought of myself. It wasn't until years later that I'm so open. You can ask me anything. I will tell you about the darkest times in my entire life, many of which were 100% directly my fault. And I'm okay with sharing that information. I'm okay with being vulnerable because it makes me feel so much better about myself, but it also lets people know, hey, this is me. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. Hopefully we can work together. We can share the same vision to obtain a certain goal, so that you know where I'm at. I hope I know where you're at. And that is the basic foundation of trust, is vulnerability. Letting people know where you're at. Now, it doesn't mean, Rocky, that I go and say, hey, did you know that I did this and this? Oh, by the way, do you want to buy my widget? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting a basic fundamental understanding of what kind of person I am. What kind of person will I be working with? And that has to do with my different core values and how I align myself with people I choose to work with.
And it's probably taken you a long time to create that set of core values and have that vision and put it all together.
This is a living, breathing document that I have. It's continually being updated. And when I say document, I do have an actual document, but I'm talking about the document in my belief system. Something's going to happen in the future that may change the way I view life, or I view the way that I'm doing business. And so I need to be prepared for that. But at the same time, I need to know that my vision, my core values are really my core values and really my vision. Otherwise, it's fake. It's a fake it till you make it type of mentality. And without being authentic and being vulnerable, it's really hard to understand your why and why you do what you do in the way in which you do it. And in fact, it should evoke an emotion, both in myself and my team, that inspires us to strive for excellence. That's where we have to come back to when we all get lost. And it reminds me, like I said, of what we as a team, what I as a person truly stands for.
And I think that's a struggle that a lot of people have, is that they've never taken the time to figure that out and to define it for themselves. They've let other people define it for them, which gets you in trouble.
Yeah, and Rocky, that's a really good point. And I'm sorry to jump on you there, but you just nailed it. Here's the thing: people are afraid of imposter syndrome. If you sit down and write everything that you want to be, that's not being an imposter. That's striving for excellence. That's what you aspire to be or to do. And that is 100% okay. It actually, you should do that. Maybe you're not that person right now, but until you write it down and until you constantly remind yourself of this, you're never going to be that person that you really want to be. So and that's not faking it till you make it. That's that is going after what your vision is, defined by your core values and your mission.
And that requires clarity.
It requires clarity. And the first thing you can do, I don't necessarily know if I have clarity. I'll be totally honest with you. I still have a lot of question marks in there, but I definitely have a direction.
And once you know at least the direction you're going, it makes it so much easier to make course corrections and to also ignore things that are not on the direction that you're going.
Yep. Because I can know I want to hike up to the top of that mountain. I know, but I have no idea what the top of the mountain looks like. I have no idea what obstacles I'm going to come across on the way. I don't know if I'm going to come across a river that I'm not going to pass, and I may have to walk, 2 miles, to the right or to the left in order to find a way across that river. I don't know that, but I do know the direction I want to go is to the top of that mountain.
And that's very true. And once you have your direction and once you have your values, it becomes much easier to start scaling businesses. And I know you actually have a multitude of businesses, don't you?
I have, yes. Pretty much all based around they're different verticals within in a similar niche. But yeah, it's multiple businesses, but kind of the same game plan.
How do you keep focus and allow all these businesses to do their thing without everyone constantly coming to you saying, what do I do next? How do I do this? How do you create the ability to scale like that?
Yeah, so that's something that we're still working on. However, some of the things that we've done that's made it a lot easier is anybody that works with us on our staff, they write their own job roles and responsibilities. We do not write it for them. Now, we know what we're looking for, and we generalize the tasks and the responsibilities that we need to have someone do for us, but we empower every single person on our team to write their own job roles, their own responsibilities. And what's really good about that is because they feel like, wow, I've created my own job here. And I always like to explain it like this. You're playing on a basketball on the court. I don't care what you do. You shoot 3-pointers all day. Take it down the lane, do a layup, try a slam dunk. I don't care. The second the ball goes out of bounds, let's chat. Let's figure out what happened. Press pause for a second, time out, figure out what's wrong. And then when we get it all straight and we're back on track again, throw the ball back into play and let them go back at it. And with roles and responsibilities, every January, we look at them and we see if there's needs to be a tweak, because the more we learn, the more educated we get, maybe the more responsibilities we can have. So let's look at that a minimum of once a year. And if someone comes along before that and they challenge something with regards to what it is that they're doing, listen to them and understand and see if maybe you can course correct right away. Does this make sense to do this right now? Or can we establish a plan of attack for this to make that switch? And I think right there is your answer. That's how you can get away with someone constantly saying, hey, how do I do this or how do I do that? And then the one other thing that we do as well is you have to get what's in your head out. You can't expect people to magically know what you are thinking. And so what I do is I do screen captures for anything that we're doing, because we love workflows, we love processes. And so I do a screen capture and where you record my screen and I'll say, okay, then you click here on this and this is what you do here. And then I hand it off to that virtual assistant or that assistant. And I ask them, I say, okay, watch this video. And I want you to go through the video and write down a step-by-step workflow. Every time I click on the mouse button, write down what's happening and then take a screenshot of that. And then all of a sudden I have a written out and a video workflow, which we can reference, but it does two things. I now understand that my assistant or that person that's responsible for that specific roles or responsibilities knows exactly what to do in that instant. And if they made a mistake along the way, which is definitely okay by me, I can correct up front and don't have to worry about that same mistake happening over and over and over again. And if we grow and scale and we need to bring someone else on to support that role, guess what? We already have a step-by-step process in place. We reduce that learning curve, 25, 50, 75%.
And when you're going to scale, that is very important because you need the ability to do that without, because if it's all captured in one person, that creates a problem, especially when that one person leaves. But if you have the ability to create processes and systems and then to share the processes and systems, then it allows people much more flexibility. And if someone's not there, someone else can jump in, watch a video, click the same buttons, and get the work done and moved out in whatever needs to get handled in that particular place.
100%. Plus, everybody on the team understands the message. They can all say whatever it is that you do in the snap of your fingers. And the added bonus is, if you ever want to move on and ever want to sell your company, your valuation now just increased because you have systems and processes in every aspect of your business, which makes whoever's buying your company easy to come in and take over, or easier for them to come in and take over.
And that's very big. If you're looking to scale a company and sell out, you have got to have a company that doesn't rely on you. Because if it relies on you, the value is a fraction of a company that doesn't need you to be there.
This is an ongoing challenge we're having. We actually had a conversation about that this week, wherein my marketing director, she's asking me to put more of me out there and get me more out, in the front, in the face of the business. And I'm struggling with that because I don't want people to identify my company with me. I understand how important it is for me to get out and share and get business and learn about people and let them know who I am and what I'm doing. I get that, but it's challenging, because I really want Bottleneck to be on his own or my company, I should say, to be on its own two legs, so that if I do ever leave, there's not going to be that much of a difference.
So it sounds to me like what she's saying is, I need somebody out there who can promote the company and share our values and visions.
Yes, exactly. And that person we have yet to find. That's a tough deal. That's where I get challenged. It's my baby. It's our baby. It's something that we want to grow. But I'm not naive in thinking that one day I may want to do something else, or I may find myself in a really good position to, or find something new in the future that I really want to pursue. And I would not be able to do that unless I can remove myself from this. And also I understand that, hey, if this does happen, and maybe there's a CEO that comes in and takes over and takes my place, I'm okay with that. I really am, because I want what's best for my company. I want what's best for the staff, and I want what's best for our clients. And if that's not me, I'm okay with that.
That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about Bottleneck. Yeah. Clearly, Bottleneck as a word has a connotation. So tell us about the why behind this company and what you do.
Yeah, I love this. Thank you so much. The why behind Bottleneck is we love building and nurturing professional relationships. And one of the challenges I had before in a creative web agency was I would do the work, and then that was the end. It was a project, and that was the end of the relationship. And I wanted to. A lot of the clients have become friends of mine, and sure, it's great touching base and stuff like that. But I wanted to continue providing value for them. And what I would find is they would come back every maybe couple years and want updates on their sites or redo their brand or whatever it was, because their company was growing. And as they were growing, there was consistent challenge they were facing: hiring, staffing. It was so hard because they didn't really know what to do or what to look for in hiring staff, and doing it at an affordable rate. Because I believe staff is probably the most important or most expensive aspect of business. Because they make you or break you, they cost relationships or they make relationships, but it's expensive, right? Hiring on staff, and it's scary sometimes. And what I found is a lot of people didn't really know how to hire properly. I didn't know how to hire properly. And so I thought, man, how cool would it be? Because I've used virtual assistants in the past and I've absolutely loved it. And a lot of people started asking me, hey, where do you get your assistants from? And it wasn't, thankfully, it was for my mastermind group that said, Jaime, you should really start getting into this. And I did. I jumped in with both feet. I didn't care if the water was cold or lukewarm. It didn't matter. I jumped in, and I never looked back. I've had so much fun and continue to have fun building this business. And that's the reason that we got in there, because we were able to deliver a roadmap with built-in systems and processes from all the mistakes that I've made in the past to help our clients and our future clients out navigate those gnarly waters through the hiring process with remote virtual assistants to, be able to scale their companies effectively and maybe sometimes even more importantly, affordably.
And so I think this is a relatively somewhat new thing where you can have virtual assistants. And I think your virtual assistants aren't even in the United States, correct? They're outside.
Right.
So
Philippines.
they're in the Philippines, which means that you're actually allowing yourself to get a much better value for the work that's there, because there are differences in economies throughout the world. And I will tell you this, the world is becoming flat in the sense that while people are complaining that American salaries are going down, salaries in the rest of the world are coming up. And as labor can move anywhere across virtual borders, so to speak, you're going to find an equalization in many areas. One of the struggles, though, that I see, and this isn't so much in the virtual side, but in the outsourcing side, is the quality of the work that people get. So how have you been able to keep culture and hire the right people and create such a way that you're not struggling with the quality of the work you get back?
So that's a unbelievably great question. And there's challenges every time. If I was 100% positive every time I source somebody, I would be lying. However, what I do is we have certain a vetting process in place that minimizes the risk. And someone can interview unbelievably, but they wash out. They're terrible. They just can't get it. Or maybe they fib, right, to get the job. And there's just sometimes you can't get through that. But we have a 4-step hiring process. Only about 20% of the people complete the application because there's some, problem solving that needs to go on. We do DISC assessments. So we learn what kind of personality have. We learn what their strengths are, and more importantly, what their weaknesses are. We only hire college graduates because 100% of the universities in the Philippines are taught in English or with higher education learning. So not everybody goes to college, but maybe there's an RN, right? That goes to nursing school or, but that's all taught in English. And we want to make sure that number one, they can effectively understand, read, write, understanding being the key there, English at a very, very high level. But it's not always that. If you want to hire a full-time web developer, they may not speak the best language, but I will put up our web developers against anybody out there. They're amazing web developers, but I have no need for them to talk to our clients. Now, my executive assistant, she needs to talk to my clients, so her English needs to be much better.
And so it's understanding the needs, what you need, and then finding the right fit. And that's kind of one of the biggest ahas for me, is that some people are great interviewers and some people are great workers. And they're not always necessarily the same people, which means, as you said, you hire these people because they did a great interview only to be like, what happened?
Right. But we've done it thousands of times since 2006, and I've learned a thing or two. The other day, I sat in on an interview. Normally, I don't do that, but I wanted to make sure that these interviews went good. I promised the client that I would participate. And one of the people, it was for a bookkeeping position, and she didn't have a great interview. But she is amazing. I know she's amazing. I've seen the work. I've seen what she's done. I've seen her education, but she did not interview well. And that's the reason why we take them through this 3-tiered vetting process. And we interview them twice before they even get to our clients. And just because they have a bad interview does not necessarily mean that they're a bad hire. So what I went ahead and did is I encouraged her, our client, to give a task and assign a deadline and see how she handles it and see what she does with it. And he was blown away. by the level of detail and the turnaround time and the level of professionalism. And we came to find this later, that she was extremely nervous during that process. She's very much an introvert, according to her DISC profile, very much so, almost so much so that it killed the chances of her getting hired. But that she loves working remotely. She loves working from her home. She's so happy now that she can get a nanny to take care of her kids while she works and not be interrupted. And she does an incredible job. So I think it's a combination of the work that we do in advance. And the other thing is, for people that are getting ready to hire, it's not, hey, go out and find me a rock star, because I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to train on it. Go find me a rock star or somebody who knows how to do it. As soon as I hear that, that's a big red flag for me. And the reason why is because you can use software, a CRM, HubSpot. I could be using HubSpot, but the way you use HubSpot is way different than the way I use HubSpot. And there's no way I could get somebody that works at HubSpot to come and work for you, and you wouldn't think they were a good fit. You didn't think they know what they're doing because they don't do it the way you wanted them to do it, right? That's why it's so important for you to create a foundation and an expectation, a level of expectation when you're going into something like this. And if you're going to hire somebody, you need to be able to train them or have somebody on your team train them, because they need to learn how you want this stuff done. And somebody that doesn't have time to do that is somebody that's going to have a very hard time finding somebody that's going to do everything like they want to. And there goes culture out the window.
I was going to say, we're coming right back to where we began. Culture, processes, systems, having it all in place, having the conversations. And then, one of the big things we talk about is managing time. And if you're constantly running around like that, chances are if you stop running around and you actually spend the time to fix everything, you will have so much more time.
Yeah, I was talking to a gentleman the other day. His name is Jonathan Callanan. He's an amazing marketer. And he goes, and I'll pose this question to you, Rocky. If you could give me $5 and I gave you $50 back, would you do that?
Not only would I do that, but I give you $500,000. Okay. Now, if you gave me 5 hours of time, not knowing whether I can give you back 50 hours of time, would you do that? I am very cognizant of time. And so I would be far more hesitant with my time than my money.
Yeah.
Because I can get the money.
Exactly. But let me give you an example. It used to take me, and I'm not exaggerating, 45 minutes to an hour to check my email a day. And more than half of it, I would say, was junk mail, or just doing things, just getting rid of deleting stuff, or, making a note of it, or, setting up a reminder for me. That was a lot of time. I spent about 2 days training my executive assistant on email management and the different systems we use and all of this kind of stuff. You know how long I spend a day on my email? About 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm saving 35 to 45 minutes a day times 365 days a year. Maybe I don't check it every day. So let's drop it down to 300. That takes 2 whole months of not checking it out. But still, that's 300 hours that I've now reduced down to just minutes. What can I do with that 300 hours of life, extra life?
That is impressive. I'm still working on my email management. I'm getting much, much better, but I'm working on it. Eventually, I will get to the point where it's perfect. One of the things I do is I send a lot of stuff to a separate email that I never look at. So if I need to sign up for stuff, give me your email, so that I go, yeah, I have no problem doing that, but all of it goes to that other email. And if I look, I think I have like 300,000 unread emails over there, but I never look. So no big deal, because I don't care what's over there. Let it be over there.
Yeah. That's just one example.
One of the things that we kind of started off with is profit first. And I know you've been through some ups and downs. I would just love to hear your profit first story.
Oh, yeah. Profit first is amazing. Hats off to Mike Michalowicz. Holy cow. I've learned so much from him. It's not even funny. And I think it's him, probably Christopher Lochhead, and Peter Drucker are probably the three most biggest influence on my personal business, and maybe an extension, Scott Beebe, for helping with the systems and processes. But what I've learned from Mike in the Profit First is, again, overcoming a fear. How in the world this concept of income minus profit equals expenses blew my mind. How is that possible? How in the world, even if I'm not profitable, how can I still pay myself? That just absolutely blew my mind. And by looking into it further and having to create that habit, and finding a banking institution that understood it and was willing and able to work with me on it and help me out with it, was amazing. It was an incredible experience. And that's why I really focused on finding a smaller bank to where we could have a really good relationship. But it was so neat. I set up, my separate accounts. Everything comes into a main account. We take out our payroll. Whatever's left over is percentage based into the different categories. And you always pay yourself into your Profit First category. And that's kind of like your rainy day fund. And we are in a growth spurt right now. So we took some stuff we actually took out of our Profit First account to put down for some expansion opportunities. And had I not had that account there, it would have been very challenging for me to do so. And so it was really neat. You pay myself, you pay my salary, you pay my my operations, you pay my profit first. You have your taxes taken care of. It's just a no-brainer, and you don't wonder, how am I going to do all this? It's right there in front of you.
It is. It's an incredible system. And when I learned about it, I was like, are you kidding me? People aren't doing this. People don't have systems, like, seriously? And then I was like, well, I could create my own in this, or I could just hook up with Mike and then I could just use all his stuff and I wouldn't have to go through all that work, right? I saved myself tons of hours.
Yeah.
And so it made it a lot easier for me to help others.
You were at too, though, because you were already there. You've had a good discipline and a financial discipline and stuff like that. And that's what I think is so awesome about you. And what I really look up to you for is because you really get it. And maybe Mike helped kind of clarify some things for you, but man, for you to be in the position where you're at is just amazing and so impressive. And I think that in and of itself shows so much about you and your character that, man, if people are not working with you yet, I hope they do soon, because you got it, man. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you so much, Jaime. Yeah, what he did for me was, rather than me having to create all the systems again and all the worksheets and all the flow, I could just join with him and he'd give it all to me. And so that was just like, wait a minute, this is a no-brainer partnership, because it just gives me everything and I don't spend the time, right? It saved me hundreds, if not thousands of hours of work for me to recreate the exact same system, essentially. And I'm like, there's no reason to recreate stuff. I do the same thing. When I take clients through creating their life plan, I don't recreate the wheel. I just get Michael Hyatt's book, Living Forward. I'm like, there's the book, there's the system, we're going to walk through it, which is exactly what I do for clients with Profit First and what I do for other things. I find the best systems and then I help people through them, because people get stuck when they have to implement something. And when they catch a friction point, if they get stuck there and don't move forward, then they give up. And it's not the system. It's literally having someone help you through the friction point. And that's what I do. So it works out well. So let's talk about action steps. What is something people can do this week to move forward?
I would say go through the delegation roadmap. If you've never done anything like that, it's pretty simple. Open up a Google Sheet and title 3 columns. The first column is task. The second column would be energy. And the third column would be delegate. For every single task, assign 2 values. One is, does this give me energy or does it completely drain me of energy? And you write, yes, it gives me energy, or no, that it drains me of energy. And is this something I must do or something I can delegate to someone else? And here's the key, that can do it 80% as good as me or better. And that way you're setting your mindset and knowing that if I can delegate to somebody, I know that they may not know it as good as me in the beginning, but they'll get there. So if they can take that 80% as good as what I can do, I'm okay with that. And then what you do is you segment all of those tasks that drain you of energy and that, yes, you can delegate to someone else who can do it 80% as good as you or better. And now all of a sudden you segment that list into a job role or responsibility. And all of a sudden, you gain some direction. Maybe not clarity yet, but you gain some direction in how you might go forward in finding somebody that you can outsource so that you can focus on the high level value that needs to be focused on in order to scale or grow your business or do whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe it's get more time with your family. Whatever that is that your true desire is, whatever vehicle you're using, come up with a plan. And even if you're not thinking about hiring somebody, still do the exercise. It's really important for you to go through that. Michael Gerber wrote The E-Myth Revisited, the E-Myth. And the example he used in there was the lady that was baking cupcakes. She loved baking cupcakes, so she opened up her own business. What was the challenge? Well, she found out she had to do, bookkeeping and taxes and marketing, and she hated that. And she ended up hating baking cupcakes, her passion, because she couldn't be everything to everyone. And so whenever you start a business or you're running a business or you're running a team, sure, you have your zone of genius, but you also need the different aspects of that business to make it run and scale like you envision it to do so. So why not prepare now for the future? If you don't need it, that's okay. You've got a good direction. But the day it comes where you do need it, you're ready to rock and roll. And if you're already at that point, take some time, grab a glass of wine, a nice cup of hot tea, whatever it is that floats your boat, and set an egg timer for an hour. Sit down, undo all of your alerts and all that stuff. Only have your Google Sheets open. Start your delegation roadmap.
And I think that's an excellent idea. And as you said, even if you don't want to delegate, I think the one thing that will come out of this is, what are the things that suck my energy? And if I don't want to delegate them, then I need to put them first thing in the day, and I need to get them done before I do anything else. Because if I can get through the hardest part of my day and the thing that sucks my energy, and I'm done with it by 8 a.m., I got the rest of the day to enjoy. So that's your worst outcome from doing this exercise.
Yeah, or spend 30% of your day on the sucky stuff and 70% on the day on the stuff that you love.
Hopefully you can get to 100.
Yeah, hopefully. It's pretty far and few between, but you get the point.
That I do. What's your secret to living an abundant life?
My secret to living an abundant life is setting goals that I know I can obtain and planning for those and enjoying the journey while I get to those objectives. Having a blast, having fun, spending time with my family. So that my secret to having an abundant life is enjoy the ride.
And if you don't enjoy the ride, you probably won't enjoy the destination.
No, not at all.
What did you learn later in life that you wish you would have learned sooner?
Finance.
Getting the money down. And then the thing with money is money compounds. So the faster you learn it and the faster you implement, it's not the first 7 years that matter. It's the last double. So if you end up at, say, $5 million, if you had done it a little bit faster, your 5 million becomes 10 million. And so the payoff is the end of the curve, not the beginning of the curve, but you've got to get started on the beginning part.
Love it.
What's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Don't quit. Don't give up. I think that's what I would do. I was at a very dark place at a certain time. I was never confident. So that's easy for me to say that. Don't quit. Don't give up. Everything's going to be all right. Like good old Bob Marley said.
And that's very true. Just keep showing up. Hey, if people would like to find you, connect, maybe get a virtual assistant, what's the best way for them to learn more about you?
You can go to bottleneck.online. What's really cool is next month we're coming out with a new website. So a lot of cool new stuff coming out. But yeah, you can go right there. There's an inquiry form you can fill out and you can get a free consultation with me and ask me any questions you want, or be glad to help you out and offer any advice that I can do, and love to hear your story.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing. I have a lot of wonderful insights that I'm sure the audience will be able to make use of.
Thank you so much, Rocky. You are amazing. And I really appreciate, by the way, the time that we got to spend in New Jersey just a while back. So it was great connecting with you and meeting you in person and just having a blast with you. So thank you for sharing your time with us.
And it was great meeting you and Sarah. Had a blast as well. Wow. What a great conversation about culture and building businesses. What are you doing to shape the culture in your life, whether it's at work, at home, or in your business? If you don't, someone else will do it for you. After all, you are the conductor of your life. Decide on your music. If you're stuck, free up time to think and figure out what your culture should be. This week's action step was doing the delegation roadmap. And this will help you to do just that. What's something you hate doing that's sucking up the life out of you every day? How can you delegate it? If you're looking for a virtual assistant to delegate it to, check out Bottleneck. There are links in the show notes. If you need help getting started with Profit First or want to learn more, check out ProfitComesFirst.com. If you're still listening, you must have liked the episode, so please share it with a few friends. It can start a great conversation, and I'd appreciate it. You can also connect with me on Facebook. There's both a Facebook page and group for Richer Soul. What's preventing you from moving forward, and who are you putting on your team to help build the life you deserve? Taking no action creates a far worse outcome in life than trying something and failing. We talked about that in today's episode. Can I help you achieve your goals through coaching and accountability? Just email me, and we can start with a short chat to see if we're a good fit for coaching. For many people, one session allows them to take a giant leap forward towards their dreams. You can always get me at rocky@richersoul.com. I'd love to hear how you're doing and how the information I've shared has helped. Thanks for listening. Have an abundant week.